of Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine for a special joint session where we'll be talking about a wide range of issues affecting our two countries, and everyone joining us are very welcome. If we can begin, though, by introducing the different members of the two different committees, and perhaps if it's possible to start with the British, and perhaps Phil, if you could start by introducing yourself and I'll go around the table.
Thank you, Chair. My name's Phil Brickell. I'm the Member of Parliament for Bolton West.
Hello, Richard Ford. I'm a Liberal Democrat Member of Parliament from Devon.
I'm Blair McDougall. I'm a Labour Member of Parliament from East Renfrewshire in Scotland.
Hello, I'm Abtisam Mohammed. I am the Labour Member for Sheffield Central.
John Whittingdale, for a long time Chair of the Ukraine All-Party Parliamentary Group, currently Vice Chair, and I'm a proud holder of the Order of Merit of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Emily Thornbury, I'm the Chair of the Committee and I'm the MP for Islington South and Finsbury.
Edward Morello, MP for West Dorset.
Hello, I'm Uma Kumaran, the Labour MP for Stratford Ambo in London.
Hi, I'm Afra Brandreth. I'm the Conservative Member of Parliament for Chester South and Edinburgh.
And I'm Alex Ballinger. I'm the Labour MP for Halesowen.
So that's the British side. I wondered, a lot of Labour people, but I wondered if the Ukrainians might also introduce themselves as well. Oleksandr, I wonder if you might be able to ensure we can do that, please.
Yeah, I would like to introduce Natalia Loktionova.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Nice to see you here. My name is Natalia Loktionova. I'm a member of a parliament and member of committee.
Hello, everyone. A member of Servant of the People Party pro-presidential.
Oleksandr Merezhko, Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Everybody, my name is Petro Anton, Secretary of Committee. Thanks.
And there are some of our colleagues online. They will introduce themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, French. Oleksandr Kopelenko, Deputy Chair of our committee.
Maria Ivanova, member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, also co-chair Equal Opportunity Caucus, Political Force, European Solidarity.
Hello.
Igor, go ahead.
Hello, dear colleagues. My name is Igor Krivoshev. I'm a member of Parliament of Ukraine from the Servant of the People Party.
Hello, my name is Andrei Sharaskin. I'm a member of Parliament, member of committee, and veterans.
Hello, good morning. My name is Lisa Jasko. I'm a member of this committee and also a member of our delegation to the Council of Europe, working on a number of important international law initiatives. And I'm also an alumna of University of Oxford.
Good. I wondered, we on our side, we have lots and lots of questions. I'm so sorry. But I wondered, though, if you would be kind enough, Oleksandr, to begin by introducing the topic. And I think in your introduction, if you would be kind enough to update the public on what the current situation is in Ukraine.
Yeah, the current situation remains difficult but stable. So we continue to fight. Well, there is a hope that there will be negotiations, but at the same time, I don't believe that these negotiations will be productive for a very simple reason, because Putin doesn't want peace or ceasefire. It poses serious danger of his staying in power. That's why I don't believe in this. On the other hand, the most important thing is to remember that the only way to deal with Russia, with Putin, is not by negotiating, because Putin takes it as a weakness. The only way to deal with him is by imposing stricter sanctions and by providing Ukraine with military means, weaponry, and military assistance. The thing is that the war has entered its fourth year. Of course, you can imagine how difficult it is, and Russia continues to kill civilians. But we stand firm, and we are grateful for friends like the UK, like Germany, like France, like Poland, Baltic, Nordic states, because your help, your assistance helps us to survive and to bring peace closer. Thank you.
I have to say that the experience of members of this committee in visiting Ukraine and members of Parliament more generally, many of whom have visited Ukraine now, we are all of us struck by the extraordinary strength and determination of the Ukrainians, and we are overwhelmed by your bravery. And it is an honour to give you any help that we can, and we mean that very sincerely. Those of us who've spent any time and who've had the honour of spending any time in Ukraine or with Ukrainians, to see the force that you have, the strength that you have as a people, it's really very moving indeed. Perhaps we have a. Do you mind if we begin with some questions, and perhaps some of your committee might be able to answer? I mean, I think coming out of the visit to Ukraine, I think Alex might have some questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I too was incredibly impressed by the resilience of the Ukrainian people and the parliamentarians over 3 years. And I mean, in the short time we were in Kyiv, there were a number of air raid sirens. We saw, of course, a couple of days ago, Russians again attacking civilian targets, destroying that minibus where nine people were killed. And I can't even imagine how hard it must be on the front lines. One of the asks when we were there was for more on air defence. I wonder, Chair, if you could say a bit more about how the UK and our allies can help you on air defence to protect those civilian locations and help you with your fight on the front line.
I will respond very quickly, but I will give the floor to Maria Ionova on this important issue. Well, at least from my perspective, it's one of the crucial things in terms of our defense to have reliable air defense, because air defense protects our civilian population, first of all, in Kyiv, in other cities of Ukraine. And to do it effectively, we need, for example, Patriot systems. They're important because Russia is using all kinds of means, including Shaheds, drones, including ballistic missiles, and so on. So it's a crucial issue, and we hope that when we're talking about the coalition of the willing, I believe that one of the guarantees for Ukraine could be closing the sky, creating this shield, air defense shield for Ukraine. I hope it will be included in this project, this idea to help Ukraine to create reliable security guarantees. I would like to give the floor on that to Maria Ionova.
Dear colleagues, one more time, of course, thank you for this great opportunity for intercommittee exchange. It is really very important to keep this tradition on regular basis, and especially in the light of the conclusion of recent landmark agreements like security agreement and 100-year partnership agreement. And also I'd like to use this opportunity and to thank British nation and of course that members of the parliament who are regularly visiting Ukraine, not only last 3 years but also last 11 years when the Russian aggression has been starting from 2014. And also congratulations on conclusion of trade and security deal with the European Union, as I understand yesterday, as the first, if I can say, post-Brexit UK-EU summit. And when we are talking about Ukrainian situation, of course, nobody wants to ending the war as Ukraine does. And today we will discuss a lot of direction and issues. And of course, also I joined my warm words to our chair of the committee to thank you on the consolidation and consolidating the transatlantic support of Ukraine. Let's be honest that, okay, President Trump, he has opened this window of opportunity to end the war. But I think that here it is have to be our joint efforts really to make it just and really to make it fair, the end of the war, because we must stop losing not only territories and time, but first of all people. And you're right that we are losing our civilian people and our armed forces every day, and this numbers for us is painful and heartbreaking. We need really a just peace and not a capitulation and not appeasement of an aggressor. Unfortunately, we have all these appeasement actions when even I can remember the Georgia has been also occupied in 2008. And that is why I here would like to call our true friends that we have to be very clear to our unity, international, and of course also our national, to keep and to save our national identity. So the best negotiators are our Ukrainian armed forces. And that is why we have all to do everything to give them everything to fulfill their service. And just let me say that our Ukrainian armed forces, they are not professional, all of them 100%. It is regular people who are heroes, each of them, women and men. And they just want to have and to live in independent and European country. That's our natural wish, civilized wish and desire for many years. And you know that a lot of years Russia just would like to delete us from the world map. So that is why Ukraine's territorial integrity, no concessions to aggressor, because he will go further. His hunger, we will never satisfy. We just have to stop him. That is why I think that when we are discussing the question of Crimea, the cornerstone of Trump's plan is the issue of Crimea and other territorially occupied and illegally annexed territories of Ukraine. The jure status of Crimea is the backbone of international law and security. And that is why no backsliding and territorial integrity of Ukraine. We really need strong decisions on non-recognition of illegal annexation of Crimea and the others territories. Because, but in Trump's team, there is no diplomats. It's all businessmen. And that is why every day we hear deal, 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 and deal. If a democracy is a deal, if a territorial integrity is a deal, we will never accept it. So that is why we will be very strong in our values and principles. And we really thank you that our British colleagues are on the same page with us in defending, and not only defending, but fighting for all these principles and values. That is why there is a deadlock at the battlefield, and it depends on our strategy in those whose favor his deadlock will be. So I think that when we are talking about 2023, after attempts of counterattack, the war entered into stalemate, and both sides are experienced the choice of further strategy. But when we have when we are talking about nowadays, I think that, of course, Russia aggression, it's a new warfare and new technologies, and they have a new strategies. So unfortunately, they lesson learned. And that is why we also need this new strategy, and we need unification of type of drones to operate and produce them, not hundreds. Because, for example, in Ukraine now, yes, we have 214 types of FPV drones, and the same is true to other military warfare, from armored vehicles to main battle tanks and jet fighters. And that is why, yes, we need more air protection. We need more air protection. And that is why, to close the sky, we are asking, starting when it was 3 years ago, sorry to say it's in public, but we are too slowly. Yeah. And that is why we are always asking to simplify the procedures, to be more operative in production. We know how many countries have given to us the last pieces, because they understand that it's better and cheaper to stop the war in Ukraine, that it will go to Western European continent. So we don't want this, and we are ready really to fight and to stop aggressor, but do the joint efforts with more weapons, with more able sanctions against an aggressor, and of course with more international transatlantic unity, because the Western allies, including the UK, has to place its also military industry at war footing. So I think that it is also possible to replenish your arsenals, to substitute the US deliveries, as we have discussed before, and to be able to support Ukraine while we take the major responsibility on ourselves. This is the reality. So that is why our joint strategy shall be as follows. First, wartime economy. It's time not, only produce armaments, but also to prepare logistic and repair hubs. Second, I think that it should be new technologies, because we see how Russians, they creating new technologies, and they put it on the strategic protection. That is why it's really time to invest in research and development of new weapons and new battlefield strategies. Third, it's building up internal resilience. So it's to consolidate our societies also and get them prepared for a fight if these efforts fail. So, now we have to have this, if I can say, prevented actions. So Western assistance to strengthen Ukraine's negotiation position. We really need to help our armed forces to strengthen our Ukrainian negotiation position. So, this is, it is only the situation on the ground that Putin is interested in. So that is why they're talking about 4 regions or Crimea or something like this. We will not accept it. And unfortunately, there is a still strong challenge is Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We have to be honest on this situation, that again, only by strong actions, strong sanctions, we need to stop him and to have this strong negotiation position. And not only on strong sanctions and weaponry, but also NATO membership for Ukraine. We will not trade with this, and it's not Putin's deal. Our society would like to be a part of NATO. And I think that our society and our armed forces will make NATO stronger. It's our mutual interest to have Ukraine. And again, finally, to get this invitation, which is, I can say, it's a political signal for Putin that you will be with us together, not only politically, but really with a strong message that NATO for Ukraine would stop Russia once and for long. And that then will be the just peace. That is why I think it's also important for us. Another symbol we have to ruin, it's a Druzhba pipeline. And we really need to make sanctions because for the main issues is oil and gas. And it's his blood to his Russian military forces. And also, of course, the frozen assets. It's, you know, I think that everything is
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I think we're going to move on to frozen assets a little bit later. But may I just continue just to focus on the security question? I think we have. I remember when we visited, and we had the. You have on your committee, of course, people who are actively fighting on the front line, and I believe that you have. And Andre is here as one of the people on the committee. I wondered, because I know that Phil had some questions. And I wondered if we could particularly hear, and again, just to make it clear to the public that the situation in Ukraine is that everyone has to be on the front line, including politicians who are actively. Some days they spend time on the front line, and other times they're in Parliament, feeding back their experience. But Phil, I think you might have another question.
Thank you, Chair, and it's a real privilege to be having this joint session with Ukrainian colleagues today, and it was an honour to visit Ukraine, in particular spend time in Kyiv in February. Following on from some of the comments that we've heard today, I just wanted to touch on the 100-year partnership that we saw signed between Prime Minister Keir Starmer and President Zelensky at the start of this year, which covers a number of areas, defence and security, of course, but also cultural and energy issues as well. And I wondered whether Ukrainian colleagues might want to comment on what signal that sent to citizens across Ukraine about the relationship with the United Kingdom.
I'll try to respond quickly, and I will give the floor to Lisa Yasko. First of all, it's extremely powerful message to our society and to the whole world that we have concluded this 100 years strategic partnership agreement. It's extremely important. I remember I read in the memoirs of Churchill, he said once that the country behind which the UK stands cannot lose the war. So, and for me, it's extremely important signal. And it's also a strong signal to Putin and to Russia that we are not alone, that there is solidarity after all, that we have a very important, reliable, powerful friend as the UK. So we are hopeful that even in terms of inter-parliamentary dimension, so to speak, we want to join as observer to the Inter-Parliamentary Association of the Commonwealth. And again, please support us in this endeavor because we want to be closer to you. Well, we know that the UK is not part of the European Union, but we are trying to do everything we can to bring our nations closer to each other, to use all platforms, all opportunities to do that. And thank you again for your visits, for your support, because I view you as our advocate, as our sort of attorney before the United States, and I'm personally grateful for what Keir Starmer, your Prime Minister, did to support us after some misunderstanding in the Oval Office. So we can continue to rely on your help and your support. I would like to give the floor to Lisa Yasko. She's been waiting for
before Lisa speaks, and I know she's been waiting some time. We have an announcement. It's just come out in the press that the UK has announced 100 new sanctions on Russia. We've just announced that we're sanctioning 14 more members of the Social Design Agency who are responsible for Russian-funded disinformation, 46 financial institutions which help Russia avoid sanctions, also sanctions on the St. Petersburg Currency Exchange and Russian Deposit Insurance Agency, and we've sanctioned 18 more ships in the Shadow Fleet. So I've just been given a piece of paper with that news on. I thought I would share it with you before we went any further. I'm so sorry, Lisa. I know you've been waiting for ages.
Yes. Now I'm unmuted, so I can speak. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, friends and colleagues from the UK, for sharing this news. Indeed, I wanted to start by saying a few things about our security, but I actually will reply on the sanctions. So I was an author of resolution in the Council of Europe on the importance of sanctions, on actually making sure that Russia is pressured with the evidence why sanctions work and why it is important to have them. So thank you for being very, very strict and confident in applying this approach, because it seems that, especially in the recent months, the reality of politics around the world is shifting dramatically. And unfortunately, when we speak about the situation on the ground and the mood and the security situation, I wouldn't say that there is so much optimism. And I want to say it publicly because we Ukrainians, and I'm speaking now as a human and as a mother myself, we couldn't imagine that things that were happening against Ukraine from Russia aggressor would be repeated and repeated, because we believe that there will be common sense and humanity and the reaction from the world. But I don't need to explain that. Unfortunately, not everyone understands that. And even those partners and friends of us who were very, very strict are shifting because of different geopolitical situations. So I'm saying it to say thank you, that probably if you ask the average Ukrainian person on the street, they will say that British people were with us. And all your prime ministers, despite your political turbulence inside your country, were supportive of Ukraine and Ukrainian people, and we highly appreciate that. So thank you for that. So regarding security situation and the war situation, unfortunately, there is no stability. And as my colleague said, we are advancing our technologies with drones, but Russians are also doing that. So every day, the technological advancement of Russian army is growing. And despite the bravery and resilience and incredible brain work of our intelligence and our security and our people, still Russia has a lot of technological advancements. So any assistance with air defense will help us tremendously, because that's not a secret that we need much more. We need to protect our Ukrainian cities. Unfortunately, civilians keep being one of the targets of this terrible war, and every week, every day, we have victims, and that's unfortunately there is no stability and no decrease. Moreover, another topic that I'm working on now for the Council of Europe is actually the question of the prisoners of war and humanitarian exchanges of the prisoners of war. This is the area that I want to stress. Maybe you could help us more, because yes, since recently we have some progress in arranging the prisoners of war exchanges, but there are thousands of people that are missing, or those who are officially are in our register of missing, or those who are illegally kidnapped or are detained in Russia. Many of these people are missing. We don't know where they are, and only after some negotiations and such countries as Arab Emirates are helping us with the prisoners of war, other countries, we are welcoming every possible mediator who can help us to release more prisoners of war and civilians, of course, and Ukrainian children. I'm stressing this because Putin recently, and as our sources say, that there might be another round of exchange, which of course we welcome a lot, because for us the ceasefire and any possible peace is only possible after our prisoners of war are returned. And we really ask for your support in that. And yeah, I absolutely join the gratitude for the agreement between UK and Ukraine, and please be more outspoken also to your public. We really want that we contribute all together for the security of the future, all together of Europe, of our continent. This is very important, but it doesn't look that the war will be anytime soon over. So, and I think every average Ukrainian understands that, and that's not optimistic, which means we can do much more. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I want to go to Blair McDougall, who wanted to ask about Russian state asset seizure, which I know that it's something that both the chairs, our two chairs, have been working on, and we have a joint op-ed which we're putting out about this, and I hope that we will be putting more. But I think that Blair would like to ask some questions about it.
Yeah. Thank you again for welcoming us in Kyiv last month. Can you maybe set out the 300 billion euros of frozen foreign exchange reserves that are being used to underpin loans but not being transferred to Ukraine? Could you set out the arguments for why we should transfer them wholesale to Ukraine?
Yep. First of all, I would like to start by expressing my deepest gratitude to Madam Chair for this initiative and op-ed. It's extremely important issue. I came across an opinion by American Swedish economist Aslan, who says that for Ukraine to win the war, Ukraine needs 50 billion euros per year. So because it helps to enhance our military capabilities, first of all, and to defend us. So it's crucially important. I'm an international lawyer, and I absolutely agree with our arguments with Madam Chair with regard to that it's in line with international law to make the aggressor to pay for the damage done to the victim of the aggression. We should always proceed from this fact that there is a perpetrator and there is a victim of the aggression. And the aggressor, first and foremost, should pay for these crimes, crime of aggression, war crimes, for the damage, destructions, because he has already destroyed a huge chunk of our power grid and our economy. So that's why I also believe that these money, they should be not only frozen, but also transferred to Ukraine, confiscated and transferred. It might have also deterrent effect upon Russia. If, for example, each time when Russia bombs Ukraine, Ukraine will receive, say, 10 billion euros from this frozen money, it might have a kind of deterrent effect, at least a little bit, on the aggressor. And I also would like to raise the issue that I believe that not only sovereign assets should be frozen, confiscated and transferred to Ukraine. We should also think about assets by Russian oligarchs like Abramovich and so on, because they feed Russian war machine. They support Russian war against Ukraine. They're also accomplices of this crime of aggression. And they should also be held responsible in material terms for the crime of their country, which they support. So, and we should continue on this path. And thank you. And by the way, thank you. So I have read right now what Madam Chair has said just about sanctions. It's a truly historic day. And we're so grateful to the UK, which is the leader in this regard. And I do hope that other countries will follow your example. Thank you for being a leader in support of Ukraine.
On that, Mr. Chairman, can I ask about that idea of showing leadership? So one of the arguments we hear where people push back on the transfer of assets is they say that this has to be done in a way that unites all the G7 countries, and that we don't want to split countries with some countries acting and some countries not acting. In other areas of defence, support for Ukraine, we've sort of moved on from worrying about unity and instead we have the coalition of the willing. I wonder if you have a view on whether this needs to be done unanimously or whether countries like the UK could take a lead and act alone on this.
I would say that this is an important issue of justice, international law and political will, because yes, I see that there are countries which are reluctant to give this money for their economic interests, but we should put the interests of stopping the aggression and punishing the aggressor at the top. Unfortunately, yes, there are some, I don't want to name names, but they call it an act of war because they don't want to give up this money. And that's why they're trying to find any kind of pretexts. This, for example, decision should be taken collectively by G7, understanding that there might be some countries who will be against this. That's why it's dangerous. It's not fair position, and is detrimental to European transatlantic solidarity and, of course, to the interests of international justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wondered if we wanted to also ask questions about the special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, and Afra wanted to ask about that.
Hi, yes, thank you. And just to echo the words that everybody else has said about how grateful we are for you taking the time to meet with us all today. Given the limitations of the International Criminal Court in prosecuting the crime of aggression against Ukraine, I wanted to ask about, to get your views on how important it is that we establish a dedicated special tribunal to ensure Russia's political and military leadership is held accountable.
It's tremendously important. Again, this is about how to punish the aggressor. If aggressor is going unpunished and rewarded by any kind of concessions, including territorial, it puts in danger the whole global security, and it opens Pandora box. It creates very dangerous precedent for other regions like Indo-Pacific, for example. And potential aggressors, if they're not punished, if the aggressor is not punished, the potential aggressors will definitely commit acts and crimes of aggression all over the world. That's why it's so. I view it as a continuation of the Nuremberg trials and Tokyo trials. Luckily, we are going to conclude an international treaty between Ukraine and which will become a legal basis for creation of such a tribunal, and between the Council of Europe. Council of Europe consists of 46 member states. I hope that other countries from other regions will join it. Maybe Australia, hopefully Japan, New Zealand, maybe South Korea, because the Nuremberg Tribunal was created on the basis of agreement between 4 states. Tokyo Tribunal, 11 states. We have much more, I would say, we have enough legitimacy for this tribunal, and it's crucially important to create it as soon as possible. But maybe some of my colleagues would like to add, maybe Maria, yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I kindly ask if it's possible to give the floor also to my colleague Irina Gerashenko, which will answer on the questions on disinformation. And probably I will start that, yes, we agreed the 17th package of the sanction and 200 shadow fleet, but unfortunately, Russia's shadow fleet is around 1,000. That is why it is still a lot of work to do. And regarding also on disinformation, just a few words I will say that it's really a challenge for all of us. And again, after 2014, when the Russian aggression has been started with the annexation of Crimea, 3 narratives which they are providing in different countries, European and also Great Britain. That first of all, it's a historical issue that Ukraine Ukraine it is not an existing country and so on. So like it's Russian. Historical Russian territory, so they're trying to, exchange the story and the history. Second is that It is impossible to accept Ukraine into, and Ukraine has got a membership in NATO. So this is their narratives which they're working on. And also they are very active to provide a narrative that do not help Ukraine with the military support. That is why we were so strong to ask to stop all the Russian channels and social networks also in Great Britain, because we know how, for example, newspaper of Lebedev was popular in Great Britain. And also, unfortunately, still some Russian channels are very active. And we saw what was going on in Romania during the campaign and also in Poland. So again, we have to not only to pay attention and to take into consideration. So we really have to take actions. And my second issue about the also about international organization, about the justice, which Oleksandr has mentioned. And also what Lisa has mentioned about the hostages and prisoners. Let's be honest, and we are discussing this, that International Red Cross Committee is not capable or to say also publicly what is going on with our prisoners and hostages. First of all, huge number. Second, the violation of Russia Federation of, I don't know, each provision of Geneva Convention. And that is why also, for example, we have sent so many letters not only to International Red Cross Committee, but also to United Nations Committees, Committee Against the Tortures, Committee on Human Rights. You know, nothing. And the tortures are awful. We cannot compare even with the Second World War. So we have this evidence, we have this documentation. So the world has to know the ideology and of Russia Federation. So I kindly ask you, really, as your diplomats, as your diplomatic experience is one of the best in the world. So we have to say publicly that unfortunately, some of our international organizations are not capable to deliver the truth. The truth. I'm not asking about anything else, only the truth. Thank you. And probably Irina Gerashchenko, if it's possible, she will continue about the disinformation to answering on your question. Thank you.
Maybe before we move on to disinformation, I just want to focus just a little bit longer. We have many questions about disinformation, and we really do want to hear, but I'm just trying to take it in a logical order, if that's all right. And because I know that Richard wanted to ask a couple more questions or another question or so about about international law and the crime of aggression.
Thank you, Chair. And here in the UK Parliament, I've been an advocate for the Special Tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine. But I'm curious to know, how do you answer people who are sceptical? You'll hear people say things like, it's pointless to have a special tribunal for the crime of aggression because of the immunity of sitting heads of state, heads of government and foreign ministers. How do you respond to people who say that only when Putin is defeated could this actually amount to anything?
May I quickly, I'm as a professor of international law, just cannot not to answer, can't help myself to answer this important question. I studied this issue very attentively, and I have published an article with regard to this argument that there are immunities with regard to big three. Yes, president, prime minister, minister of foreign affairs. There is no such immunity, and the trend of international law is not to recognize such immunities when the serious international crimes are committed, like crime of aggression, genocide, and we're talking about genocide being committed by Russia against Ukrainian nation. So it's and if we look at the practice of some courts like ICC also, yes, we can see very distinctly that there is no immunity. Politicians, statesmen cannot hide themselves behind this concept of immunity. So from legal point of view. Second, it's important to bring to justice not only natural persons who are criminals like Putin, like his entourage and so on, but also Russia as a state itself. And additionally, it might become an additional argument for us to make Russia to pay reparations as a form of international legal liability or responsibility for the crimes committed, because this tribunal will allow also to impose on Russia these different forms of international legal responsibility. Thank you, but maybe my colleague Irina Gerashenko will explain in more detail.
Thank you very much, dear colleague. I'm very happy to see you now. Short maybe remark to your issues to responsibility, Putin and Russian people. For us, it's very important. It's a collective responsibility of the Russian people, not only Putin and your team, because every day Russian people support the war. Every day Russian people, Russian military people killed and Ukrainian people. And it's very, very important organize international tribunals and responsibility, collective responsibility, all Russian people. And my colleague take you good information with security situation and situation in frontline, because I think now we have degraded security situation and maybe very difficult position because every day war transformed. And I know my colleague take you many information to security. I want to maybe take a short remark about second topic, our discussion, disinformation, because 5 years I was special representative President Poroshenko to peace process, to Minsk group, and I worked very, very actively again Russian disinformation, because it's a big problem with hybrid war. Ukraine has unique experience is resisting Russian disinformation. As early as 2014, our team began blocking Russian TV channels and social media platforms, not because they were media, but because they were told the Kremlin propaganda machine. At the time, some European citizens and European institutions criticized us, but time has proven we were right, because it's very important block Russian propaganda. Today, Russia continues to interfere in elections and manipulated public opinion across the globe. It's part of its hybrid war. Telegram has become one of the main tools of information warfare. Russia spread fakes, intimidated, recruiting, and interfere in internet affairs through this platform. We call for a coordinated response, legislative regulating, verification of funding search, and restrictions on channels links to Russian intelligence service. And now we have project of law in Ukrainian parliament to block anonymous channel to Telegram, because it's very, very important and a big challenge to us. Our team has initiated a draft law requiring de-anonymization of Telegram channel. Second short topic, Putin regime is the responsibility of all Russian, including the so-called liberal opposition that helped build and entrench independent media, etc. And maybe my finish short topic, Maria talk with you about very important problem to us. It's our hostages. I think it's very important maybe take many information to Ukrainian hostages. We speak of people like Victoria Amelia and Vladimir Vakulenko, who were tortured Russian Federation. Stanislav Vaseev, he was prisoners to Russian prison. And I think it's very important take your the books, etc., and information to these people. Thank you.
I wonder if it was. I'm going to ask Sir John Whittingdale to ask some questions on Russian disinformation as well. He has a particular expertise and insight into this. I wonder, John, could you lead off these questions?
Yes, if I could build on what Maria and Irina have already said. I mean, we are subject to Russian disinformation, as are many countries. You've mentioned Romania, Georgia. I was in Moldova last week, where there is a massive Russian disinformation campaign propagated through Telegram, as you have mentioned. Also, TikTok is now a major platform carrying a large amount of disinformation. Obviously, the disinformation aimed at Ukraine will be different. A lot outside of Ukraine is about how they will get drawn into the war if they cooperate with NATO. But could you say a little more about what impact disinformation is having in Ukraine and what more might be done to counter it?
I will probably, hello, John, nice to see you. And also thank you for all your work and all your support. And I think that you are right. We haven't mentioned TikTok. It's really, especially in Moldova, for us, Moldova, very important. We will fight for Moldova, and we are really, by the way, happy about the results of elections in Romania. Yeah. But I think probably my proposition is to have a plan of special hearings between our committees where we'll invite also our executive institutions to say more information and to give you more deep information what we are doing and how do we act. And I think that it's important also to implement for not only for EU countries, but also for UK, as Irina has mentioned, what we have done starting from 2014, because when we are talking about such channels, and also we should invite, and I think it should be close meeting together with our intelligence services, because I'm sorry, it's their job. It's about security. It's about security already for all of us. We, believe me, even to be in a position, and we have a lot of now issues about freedom of speech inside our country. But we are now talking about propaganda and disinformation from Russia, who is poisoning free countries, and we really have to stop them. It is also about Russian so-called journalists, which we see how many European countries are financing, inviting them as a special guest, that they are civil activists. I'm sorry, they were main actors all 22 years of Putin's leadership in Russia. That's their people, and they also have to take responsibility because they were supporting his policy. But what we see how they are becoming rising stars on many conferences in EU capitals and also in USA. But sorry, if you will ask them the direct question, Crimea is Ukraine, they will not answer you. So that is why it is really about now. It's not, 50 shadows of gray. This is black and white. This is about truth and lie. And that is why only all together we can stand and we can stop. And I think that if it's possible to take into consideration my proposition, really to have a special meeting, probably a really close meeting with our security services, to discuss a plan what we have to do together, and we can share with you about good experience how to stop Russian propaganda, because it's not an information, it's a disinformation and it's propaganda, and it's really part of this not only direct war but also hybrid war. Believe me, Putin pays billions of dollars to all this on all his propaganda machine, and unfortunately we see how they became more active in USA, unfortunately. And we also have to take into consideration this. And again, I'm coming back to my request to you with your diplomatic experience to be more active with our American friends. We really rely on the Congress. We really rely on the Senate. We have to change all this terminology which they would like us to accept as a normality. For us, it's not a normality. Deal is not a normality. Democracy, yes, it's a normality. And when we are talking about justice and about the tribunal, for us, this is normality. We will not trade with the justice. Because, again, this is not only for Ukraine, it's for the whole international order and for global security. We cannot just delete this puzzle. This puzzle is very important. It's about justice, because when we are talking about hostages and tortures and killed children, you know that, again, the mother of 4 years boy was killed in Vasilkiv yesterday, and she just covered her baby. And I can tell you about experience of my nephew, of Irina's nephew, who is 22 years old, who has been wounded on the war because he's a volunteer military 3 times. And 4th time, he was wounded on recent missiles attack in Svetoshin region. One was the ballistic, and we had more than 20 people killed. So again, it's about each life we care. And this is the big difference between us and Russia. And my request is that the picture is much more wider, and I kindly ask you not, to exclude and not to give an opportunity to trade with part of the picture.
Can I just ask you quickly? You referenced Russian disinformation affecting America. We're going to Washington in 2 weeks, and certainly this is an issue we will raise. But do you think that the extraordinary lack of understanding which Mr. Witkoff appeared to show, talking about the eastern area of Ukraine and the history, do you think that was a direct example of Russian disinformation that he had somehow swallowed?
John, it's not about understanding. This is his ideology, because he's a business partner of one of the Russian oligarchs. I'm sorry to say this publicly, but it's open information. So this is not about understanding. This is about ideological principles and values. And we are ready, and you know the truth. That is why the first issue in Russia propaganda is really to delete and to give their narratives of the reasons of the war. They are also working on this very hard. In this regard, if it's possible, we will send a non-paper what we think we should do all together. And if it's in 2 weeks your visit to USA, let us send this information. Probably you will take it into consideration. So that is why we know that there are people who knows the truth, and it's also about you. It's also about American nation. They know the truth, and they really support Ukraine. So we just need to correct the team of Trump with their disinformation, because unfortunately Witkoff, he has disinformation, and this is his ideology. Because again, we would like them to come to Ukraine. Why he's going only to Russia? Let him come to Ukraine, no problem. If he has any questions, we are ready to answer. And not only in Kyiv to go, but to go, 1 hour from Kyiv to Chernihiv, 3 hours to Sumy region, where he will see what is in reality. We are not hiding anything. I mean, please go ahead. But and again, meet with the hostages, and they will tell you on what conditions they were in Russian prisons. And again, Irina has mentioned our journalists who have been killed and tortured in Russian prison, killed and tortured. And there are still Ukrainian journalists as hostages in Russian prison. We have to fight for them because they have been tortured and in prison because of their Ukrainian true position. So Russians, they will always fight with that people who has another position, not pro-Russian position. And again, they're killing Ukrainian nation and Ukrainian also Russian-speaking people. So that's the narrative. They're fighting for Russian people who are speaking in Russian, but they're killing them also. So that is why it's not about Russian-speaking, Ukrainian-speaking. It's just really not to have our sovereignty and not to have the future of our country. That is why we really, again, we're coming back from the beginning. We have to give the tools to our Ukrainian armed forces who are the best negotiations. And again, do not spend time. I mean, we really need to fast actions and operative actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I go to Abdesam?
Thank you, Chair. Sticking with the theme of disinformation, Irina, you referenced the US and the involvement there. They've now cut the funding or decided that they will not focus their funding in terms of US aid to support Ukraine in their fight against misinformation and cyber attacks. What specific countermeasures will Ukraine put in place to address this divestment in funding?
Thank you for your interest in this topic. Last week, I was in observer mission Parliamentary Assembly OSCE in Albania. And it's very interesting, after Romania, Albania, during the election campaign, blocked the short reels to TikTok because it's a problem have global mashup. And maybe after Maria, I have idea. Maybe we will organize special meeting with our European colleagues and our Committee to Humanitarian and Media, because our colleague in Humanitarian Media Committee work very actively with disinformation problem and problem to social media, TikTok, Telegram, etc., etc. For Ukraine, first problem in social media it's Telegram, because now 80% of Ukrainian people take information in Telegram platform. And big problem, it's anonymous, this system to Ukraine. I think it's important now discuss to our project of law in Ukrainian parliament and modificate and the anonymization this platform to Ukraine. And maybe should remark to Russian culture, because all time Russia continue to use culture, religion, and literature as a tool of propaganda. Every time Russia use Russian culture and literature as the only great culture in the post-Soviet space, and I think it's a big problem to your country and European country, because you don't know Ukrainian culture, Ukrainian literature, Ukrainian music, etc. Maybe now for us it's very important to take this information for European country, because it's element to Russian disinformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uma, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I want to echo the comments of my fellow committee members. Thank you all for taking so much time to meet with us. it's apt that you mentioned Ukrainian culture. I'm really proud that in the constituency I represent in East London, we have the highest Ukrainian-born population in Britain. So I'm well versed with Ukrainian culture, and we have a really thriving community. But I wanted to ask you, since we've been talking about disinformation, what impact do you see it having on the morale of Ukrainians abroad? And are you seeing any impact on international support? Can you see this across different countries? Can you see that the Russian disinformation campaign is affecting how countries are reacting and supporting you? I'll go for anyone. Any of you can answer.
Any takers?
Oleksandr, you will answer?
Well, yes, the thing is that there is different number of Ukrainian people right now living. We don't call them refugees. We use another term, temporarily displaced persons, to underscore, to emphasize that they're temporarily living in other countries, and we do everything we can to create conditions for them to come back as soon as possible, because we're talking about millions of our people. And for example, there are around 2 million Ukrainians currently living in Poland, for instance. I don't remember the exact figures of regarding other countries, but you see, when Ukrainians live in democratic states like the UK, like Poland, they don't have problem with Russian disinformation and Russian propaganda, because in these countries they have very good information, so to speak, policy, protecting, shielding them from the influence of Russian disinformation and propaganda. At the same time, the danger remains, as it was mentioned, with social networks like TikTok, for example. But let's remember that TikTok is a Chinese thing, and unfortunately, China is helping Russia to spread its propaganda. Both countries, they use these information and information platform as a weapon, as a tool against free world. And that's why what I would do, I would ban TikTok, for example. And another problem is X, platform, social platform X. When I open it each time, I see how deeply permeated this platform is with Russian disinformation, misinformation, and propaganda. It's truly dangerous. So I think we should also handle this issue, this problem, because it has certain impact. But the best weapon in our struggle against Russian propaganda and Russian disinformation is truth. That's why I'm so grateful to the UK, BBC. I'm grateful to CNN and other outlets, information outlets, which are telling the truth about what's going on in Ukraine. And that's why it's so important to keep Ukraine's issue on the radars of information, global information, because the world is growing used to this war, is growing used to this tragedy which happens on a daily basis in Ukraine. That's why it's so important to support soft power of democracy, to support like BBC, like CNN, other agencies, and also in USAID also, after all. Thank you.
I think we might have two more questions for you. May I decide to go back to Uma, and then I think Phil has got a question.
It was just a comment, Chair. I just want to say thank you for that, because we've got an open inquiry on disinformation, and what you've said about the BBC is so powerful, and we'll definitely take that forward as a committee.
I think there's quite a large campaign going on to support the BBC World Service, and we are very grateful to see that you've joined our ranks. Phil.
Thank you, Chair. My question was about the more than 19,000 children, Ukrainian children, that have been taken to Russia. My understanding is only about 1,200 of those children have since been returned to Ukraine despite a systematic abduction by the Kremlin. And it's likely that the number of Ukrainian children held in Russia is even greater than that. I wonder whether the committee might be able to tell us what steps are being taken to try to repatriate some of those children back to Ukraine, and what more the UK government might be able to do to help with that family repatriation.
Let me give the floor to Olga Rudenko. She's very knowledgeable. And I also, after her speech, to ask you to give the floor to Igor Krivosheyev, one of our members. He's holding his hand also. Olga, please.
Thank you very much for raising this very important question. As you know, in any war, the most vulnerable and people who most suffer are children, and what has been done by Russia is can be a sign of genocide. As you said, they've taken it's like officially, as you said, 19,000 children, but unofficially it's more because we don't have access to the statistics, and we don't know the final numbers, but they are much more children are being taken. And the thing is, they're being taken from the families, it's orphanages, it's the real families separated. And the problem is that they are raising their nationality. They are putting them to faraway parts of Russia, like Siberian, into special camps. They are completely erasing their national memories and making them to become Russian, and they're using a lot of this pro-Russian propaganda. So apart from this, it is very difficult to get them back. As you said, only like few hundreds we managed to take them back. And as my colleague said before, because international organizations are actually not really helping, like Red Cross or UN are not really helping us with that. It's mostly Arabic countries like Qatar, like Arab Emirates that are serving as mediators, and only with the help of them and with our special organizations working on it. This is like how we're doing it now, and we are talking to on any level. Like we're going to this international Inter-Parliamentary, for example, organization like IPU, or we are making the special sessions, special committees setting up in different in European Council, for example, and we're asking on all levels to be mediators in this session. To if Russia doesn't want to speak to us directly in this matter, so we're asking all these like third parties to be mediators. However, Russia is very is not really willing to give us information on these children. Their view, they are saying that they are saving these children from war. It's not, they are not taking them from families, it's like saving them from war. And this is like one of the propagandas that Russia is using. So, I mean, there is so much to do in this matter, and we are still asking you to help as a UK, as a parliament, as a special organization. So, Oleksandr would more, as you wanted to ask.
I would like to ask to give the floor to Igor Krivosheyev. Yeah, he's on the screen.
Chair, I would like to answer the question about moral and resilience of Ukrainians because it is very important, and any act of support is important. There are no small or big acts because our resilience is built on your support. When we are, I have met a lot of UK citizens in Ukraine here. I have met UK journalists near the front line, and every meeting is important. So when you are visiting Ukraine, it really helps us, it inspired us. Also, when we are looking at the photo, and we see on that photo the member of the royal family with Ukrainian veterans, it inspires millions, and it is really important, and we feel your support. Unfortunately, is the support enough? For this moment, the answer is no, because we are still fighting. And we are asking to extend the support, and it also will extend the moral and will increase our resilience. We will be stronger with more acts of support. So when we're talking about support, it is always a good idea to say thank you. And I thank you, dear colleagues, for your efforts, for every act of support. And also thank for the people of United Kingdom. So I think we are really so the question about moral, it sounds like we don't want to fight anymore, but I will answer you that we have no choice, because Russia is very predictable, and we have such a war 100 years ago. And if you remember what happened when Ukraine falls, in 1921, Russia started one of the most horrible genocides in the history. It was Holodomor. So, and we lost millions of lives of civilians, of children, and it was a result of our surrender. So we have no choice, and we will fight. And when any country are talking about appeasement or talking about that there will not be responsibility for Russia for that crimes against the humanity, it sounds ridiculous. I'm sorry, but it sounds ridiculous. So one more time, I want to thank you all for your time, for your efforts, for your acts of support, and all of the citizens of United Kingdom. Thank you.
Oleksandr, may I add on some questions the information also, if it's possible, or Madam Chair?
I think, of course, and the contributions that have been made by members of the Ukrainian Parliament have been so informative and articulate. It's been really important to hear from you. We are a little bit bumping up against the clock, but if we are, yes, so, but otherwise, yes.
Thank you so much. So first of all, also before also your visit to US, it is really important to restore the active position and active job of radio liberty. It is really very important. That is why we kindly ask you also to speak about disinformation. In this regard, it's like a protection of the radio liberty, I think. So to restore the financing of this media. Also regarding the kidnapping, it's unfortunately the number is, much more higher. And the main problem is to identify where these children are, because as you know, Russians, they're changing the names, the surnames of these children, and also they created a filtration camps. And it's again, we're coming back to the question of international organizations who, according to their statute, has to be more active in this regard. And of course, I think that this topic should be more loud in world media, because we remember that it is already Putin. He has already investigated, and they opened the criminal case against him on this regard because of the children. And I can tell you that we are getting so awful photos from temporarily occupied territories, or Zaporizhia region or Donetsk region. What do they do with the children in kindergartens or at schools? So it's really like a prison. How Russians are changing the ideology, and also to finalize about the air defense. Sorry, but I didn't thank you for your initiatives when that was a discussion about the international contingent on our territory, and that Britain has agreed that they can close the sky because you can give us also Eurofighter, Typhoon, and also F-35. I think that is also really very important. And again, we also would like to thank you with the Grave Hawk, who was really produced and developed for just 18 months. So we need, just to say that we need more, as you know, and it's really for not only to defend but also existential our resilience, as Igor has mentioned, job, because the culture of Russians, not a ballet, the culture of Russians you can see in Bucha, in Borodyanka, in Mariupol, and by the way, about the hostages of Azov, which Putin has not implemented. Still, more than 2,000 people are in prison, and all these photos are awful. And I again appeal to international organizations, which unfortunately are very weak doing their job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I believe this brings us to the end of this extremely interesting and informative session. I would, and an opportunity for us to extend our friendship between our two countries and our two parliaments. I don't know whether there's anything else that the Ukrainian chair would like to say in closing this session.
Thank you. Just very quick 2 thoughts. First of all, dear friends, I'm so glad that the issue of Ukraine's support is not a divisive issue in the UK, that this is something which unites you, no matter whether you're conservative, Labour, liberal. This is tremendously important for us. And thank you for this support all across the political spectrum, so to speak. And finally, one final phrase in Churchillian way, and please sort of try to tell this to our American friends. Like Churchill once said, give us the tools and we will finish the job of liberation. Thank you so much.
Very good, very good. I couldn't put it any better, sir, than perhaps saying this. Slava Ukraini. Order.
Thank you.